Hello, good morning. Hopefully this is all working. Um, just sorting out my mics and things. I started a few minutes early this morning on Art Chat. Um, Last week when we started this, it was a complete mess. I'm not going to make any excuses for it, and I do apologise. Cameras weren't working, lots of things were going wrong, but we did eventually get there, and we did eventually do 2 hours, which I was really, really happy about. um, it's one of those things. It's technical stuff. So I'll make that statement right now. If this all closes down, don't worry. I will come back. I will endeavour to make sure this works. But right now, everything seems to be okay. The funniest thing is, I haven't changed anything technical wise, and it seems to be working just as normal, which is great. As ever, if you're in the chat room and you started to watch, thank you for being here. But if you can also, do say hello in the chat, because it lets me know who's in the room. So if you want to just say good morning, it'd be great to have a quick brief chat before we get on with our drawing demo. As you can see, you still got Alex's, who in fact is there, Alex's portrait up. It's because I didn't want to work on it outside of this. I've been quite busy this week. I finished off my commission, which I was really happy about. Something I was quite excited to do, and once it's delivered, I'll probably show it to you on our chat and talk you through what I did. And what else did happen this week? Yep, my piece I sold has flown the nest and made its way to its new owner. It's a piece called Balanced, and it's quite an important piece to me because it was a picture of Andrea as a manimal, and I did a series of 4 of them. And this was the very first one. I did Andrea as a black rabbit, and you've probably seen it. I've posted it up sometimes as my profile picture as well. Andrea came down and visited me in the pods, the studios where I was based at the time in Bangor on the seafront, and she came in one day and I just had this idea about how different we were. Not Andrea was different, but in general people are different in different roles and in different times of the day, so we're not always the same personality all the way through the day. For example, when we get up, we might be kind of lethargic and slow. When we're at work, we might be very clinical and efficient. When we're with a group of friends, we might be the party animal. And I wanted to kind of describe personality in that way, that we weren't always typecast or boxed into being a certain thing all the time, just the one aspect of ourselves. So I decided I was going to do this portrait of Andrea, but I'd do it in 4 aspects of her personality that I come to know. And I chose 4 different animals to reflect that. And I did certain kind of elements in the picture that kind of symbolized aspects of her. So Balance was one of the very first ones, and it's a picture that I was kind of really pleased with. The funny thing was, it looks like I had Andrea dress up for me, but if anybody knows Andrea, she's got a brilliant, creative, unique style to her fashion, and she doesn't even call it fashion. She just goes into a wardrobe and picks the clothes out she wants to wear and wears them, and she always looked amazing. And this day she came in and she's wearing green tights and a pair of grey shorts and this kind of fake corset-y type thing, and she had a coat over the top of it, and it was a really hot day, and she came and she took the coat off, and I just looked at her and I thought, your personality is part of your expression and how you dress. Not that she's fashion conscious, quite the reverse actually, but I would like to capture that as identifying her. She had these particular shoes on that were made by a shoe company. For the life of me now, the name of it's disappeared. But just the whole ensemble that she had on, I thought perfect. So I got her, just went, could you do me a favour? Could you just stand there and just do this, and then could you just sit there and just do that? So she went, yeah, what's this for? She's so helpful. So I had to stand there and went, I'm going to do your portraits, but I'm going to do 4 of them and explain the whole thing to her. And she was happy and did it. So the first one I did was Balance, and that's now sold, and we've actually had it up in the house for a while, because it's, well, one thing about Andrea, she liked my work before she even met me, and she had uh, purchased some cards early days, different images that I'd done. Obviously, I hadn't done balance at that point, and it kind of brought home to me that when you do artwork, I do them predominantly for myself. There are ideas I want to express, thoughts I kind of thinking about. Artistically, sometimes it's about a challenge of a process and about how I put that out there. Um, and I've never thought I was one that held on to my work too tightly, that I was upset to see go. But strangely enough, this is one of those pictures that I kind of went, right, I'm happy that it's going out there and it's doing its thing. People um, find appreciation in work from different avenues, from different backgrounds, people's ideals and ideas, see works in different light than the reason why they might have been created in the first place. And that is really interesting to me. So when everybody looks at my work, I always like to hear what people think of it. Not necessarily, oh, it's really nice, oh, it's really good, but to actually listen to their thought processes as to why they like it, what they think of it. Because often that isn't a great way of inspiring me to think about my work in new ways, or to come up with a different idea or a different concept, or a different way of producing the work. So that sort of conversation sometimes is really hard to get. When it's sold, I sold it through Saatchi Art. Saatchi Art is an online art store. They've been going for quite some time, and it actually reminded me of the importance of new media in the modern art world. Because this is going back more than 10 years ago now. I think, oh, it must be 2007, 2008. Saatchi Art popped up online. This is almost around about the same time as Facebook was starting out. It's quite sort of similar timeline. I think Facebook had started out before that. And at the time, Saatchi Art had a chat room where you could communicate with other artists. You could upload your artwork and show your artwork. The sales wasn't sort of the main sort of focus of it at that time. And what was interesting is that artists from all over the world were communicating really early on, and I stayed with Saatchi Art through its development, and we ran a couple of different events. I say we, there was a chap who initiated it, and he said, wouldn't it be great if we just came together and we did an arts event, and we called it Art for Nothing. And our first one was in Hoxton Square Gardens in London, and we decided that we would all arrive on the same day, meet up in the morning, and give our artwork away for free. So this is in the middle of London, and it was a bit of an unknown quantity. I had never physically met these people before. We didn't know where we were going. We were meeting in a public space, so it was almost safe for everybody. But we would turn up with our artwork, and we were going to give it away for free. And we didn't really have a process of how to do this. We weren't too sure how to do it. It was but quite a sort of ad hoc guerrilla-ish type of art form, which I really enjoyed. Hoxton Square Garden has a white cube, which is very well known, and we kind of set up in this little square. It was a lovely little kind of gardeny area in the middle of this kind of square of buildings, and bars and offices and things. And we put our artwork out there. We literally stood with it. At the time I was living here and I'd flown over, and I thought, well, I was doing a lot of ceramics back then, and I made this ceramic figurine. I thought, I'm just going to take this one figurine over, because I couldn't carry lots of ceramics with me. And I'm going to give it away, and whoever asked for it can have it. I'll talk to them about myself, about my art process, about artwork, and have a general chit chat. I thought, I'll be able to do my bit. It won't take that long, but I can enjoy the rest of the day with the rest of the artists as well. And the funny thing, the way it worked was, we thought we would just be mobbed. People would just come in, go for free, brilliant, I'll take it all, thanks, bye. And we'd be there for about an hour. We were there most of the day, and Sandy had come over from Slovenia with a group of artists who had this whole kind of this more performance-based community art where people got involved in creating the artwork and could take the artwork home. Each person could sort of wait around long enough could take a roll of this paper. So they had this piece of an instructional manual that was kind of on repeat, and it would beep, and every time it beeped you had to change colours, and then when you got to the end of a line they give it to somebody else, and if you waited around you could get one of these big rolls of paper with all these different marks on it, and visually they were brilliant. So that was going on throughout the day. Different people were giving away different things, and people had different processes of it, like if you want a ticket, there's my card, and there's a piece of work, and they would have discussion. And we thought people would just be, yeah, give me that, give me that. And it wasn't like that. People were very hesitant, very sort of cautious, wondering what we were there for, why we were there, and why we were giving our artwork away for free. And was it really free? They'd have to buy a ticket somewhere else and then come to the event and get stuff for free. And it was really quite surprising how difficult it was to tell people, no, this, if you want it, it's yours. And in the middle of the gardens was this little marble plinth. And I think it was an old water fountain plinth, but the water fountain had been taken away. And I thought, what a great little place. And I just placed my ceramic figurine on top of it. And oh, good morning, Desiree, how are you? Yeah, so I kind of waited. And I waited. And I waited a long time. And I waited for hours. And I was thinking, oh, people don't like it. Oh, people don't like my work. You can't even give it away. You know, at that time, I was just dipping my toe into being a professional artist. Oh, this is terrible. You know, people just really don't like my work, and maybe I should really think about what I'm creating, and because it's obviously not connecting with anybody. And there was lots of people kind of circling it, and I stood around, and they didn't want to kind of stand around going, "This is my work. This is my work." I had very little confidence at the time to talk about my work. And I was quite shy and reserved, so I stood there. I was just kind of listening, and I was hearing lots of, "Ooh, that's nice. Ooh, that's nice," and then people kind of walk around it, and then walk over to the other guys who were sitting down and chat with people and giving away prints and things that they've made. Oh, good morning, Alex and Angela. How are you? Good to see you. Sorry, I'm just going to reiterate a story. It's kind of a good way to make sure all the cameras are working as well. If there's any issues and problems, nobody missed any sketch of it. So yeah, I was stood there, and you know, people were just kind of milling around. I thought, well, you know, it's a nice day, and I met some really nice people. Everybody that turned up was super nice. I mean, just like we'd known each other for a long, long time. And eventually, a woman came up, and she went, the thing is, she didn't actually come up to me. She came up to the statue and was looking sort of very furtively around like this. And she slowly bent down and she picked it up and she held it really, really gingerly. And I was still looking around like this. I picked it up and then she started examining it. I just walked up and I went, "It's really nice, isn't it? Do you like it?" I didn't actually say to you, "It's really nice," because that sounded really conceited, didn't it? I just went, "Well, what do you think? Do you like it?" And she went, "Yes, this is lovely. I've been staring at it all morning, and I don't know who's around, you know, whose work it is." And I went, "Oh, right. Are you going to take it?" And she went, "No, I don't think you're allowed because there's nobody with this one." I went, "No, it's my piece. If you want it, you can have it." And then she just went, "Really?" I went, yeah, you can take it." She went, "Oh, you're giving this away for free?" And I went, "Yeah, it's out for free. This is what we're here for, blah, blah, blah." And she went, "That's amazing." And about 3 or 4 other people went, "Oh, no!" Like that around. And I went, it just gave me a sudden realization that I'm not communicating about the work. You need to talk to people about it. And people are wanting to engage with you, but they need to find out who you are to engage with you. And it gave me a little bit more confidence back in going, oh, thank God it wasn't a case that nobody liked the work. And it gave me a real buzz that it wasn't about the commercial aspect of it, it was about sharing an idea. And I talked to her about the work and why I created it. And she went, "Oh, that's that makes this even more real for me. Even though it was a physical object, she had it in her hand, it meant something. And that we'd had a discussion about what she thought about it, and it was really nice that she felt that she was paying into kind of my ideas, and that future work would be created out of it, and future work was created out of it. But part of it was a good learning curve for me to talk about my work and to not be scared about talking about my work. Um, and you also feel like kind of, I don't want to say this is what I think because it makes me sound really cocky, big-headed. And I realised that's very frustrating for people who want to find out about the work, because if you're not talking about it, how are they going to find out? So social media in this respect, it was really good because it opened up a showcase where people could share their work. The Art for Nothing went on to do one in Slovenia, and that was amazing because we thought there'd be a language barrier, but there was about 16 different countries had different artists come, and we all had to learn. A lot of people could speak English. I'll hold my hands up. The only language I could really speak was a little bit of German. It wasn't that great. So thankfully, a lot of people could speak English. But I thought we thought there'd be a sort of a communication barrier, but there really wasn't. When people saw the work, they would go, "Oh, and go, yours?" You go, "Yeah." And I go, "How this?" And go, "Yeah, take it." So it kind of crossed or transcended language barriers, and it kind of crossed cultural barriers, because we all do come from different countries. So it was a very valuable experience that way. And again, like social media and the internet and YouTube and Instagram and Facebook and all the other platforms, you think what you create is just for you, which it is. But once you create it and it's out there, other people are attracted to it for different reasons. They want to purchase it. And how do you engage with the purchase? Well, Saatchi Art created this site, and then they kind of went on through to create a platform where living artists, could share their work. Now, there's Saatchi and Saatchi Art, and Saatchi Art was a sort of an offshoot, I think, initially of Saatchi, and now it's become its own little thing. It's based in California, in the States. They have less commission than most galleries. They deal with all of the shipping for you. Communication's great. There is a vast amount of people who share their work on there, and it can be sometimes hard to be seen. But one thing I realised early on, it wasn't just their job to show my work. And I think because you put it on a platform, you think, well, you should be doing your work now. They do an awful lot of stuff to promote different work and different artists, and they get involved with different things. So the art show they do around the world in partnership, I think. They do an awful lot of stuff to promote different artists, and every week they do a range of work that they put into a collection, or the curators, everybody who works in there sort of curates a little showcase of artwork or different programs. Sometimes they do it by theme, sometimes they're getting guest curators and come in. So they do an awful lot of work to promote work, but they can't necessarily promote every piece of work that's uploaded into the site, because it's about 500,000 or something like that. A number off the top of my head, but I think it's roughly around about. So there's a vast amount of artwork on there, but that is also a vast amount of artistic resource. So I think if you find it very hard to generate ideas for your work, it's very hard to be this pure individual thought all of the time. Sometimes you need to absorb influence from outside, whether that be other artworks or music or literature or what's going on in the world or the people that you're around. You need some sort of influence to give you something to work on, to mull over in your mind creatively. And as a resource to go there and have a look through and source and scan, you can also find out other people who may be at a similar level to you are actually showing their artwork online already through these platforms. So it's a huge mixture of different artists at different levels And yeah, I've been putting my work on there, and it sold through Saturday Yard, and I was really pleased that you get a sale, especially right now during this particular time. But it's also made me realise that there are people out there who still want to buy original artworks and support living artists. Um, it's an important aspect business-wise to function you to sell other work. We've got into this idea that if you're selling work, you're kind of selling out, and that's rubbish. Every artist in art history has created work to sell, to create more work, and it doesn't devalue it, but it's a value to your work. Um, so it's not just about, I don't want to just talk about the money side of it today, but it's just really heartening to know that the importance of it, because I always get um, very thankful to the fact that people are investing in your artwork, they also invest in you the artist. So whenever you sell a piece of artwork, it's never just the artwork that they're purchasing, they're actually purchasing your future, because they're allowing you to do and create the things that you do, support you in lots of different ways, like all of this. So the money that I got from the arts grant to create this has gone into producing and developing the artwork, and from the sale of the artwork I can go on and reinvest it back in. So it's kind of like a never-ending process, but in that process you're building your experience and you're developing your skills. If I'll keep looking down occasionally, it's because Inky's asleep on my lap, and as I'm talking, gesticulating, she's kind of waking up and moving around. So I'm trying to knock her off. I'll give you a quick peek at it. But yeah, anyway, today I just thought it would be a nice kind of, it just reminded me, it was a nice kind of story that happened through the week. Was sad to see it go. I'm happy to see it go as well. That's the other thing. I'm pleased that it's made a connection, and especially when I do something which, like a lot of people know my work, called Manimal, where I use an animal head as a descriptive narrative for a portrait. It's not sort of the normal portrait that we're doing today, and these are thoughts that are in my head creatively, and I was thinking, oh, should I be doing this, should we do that? And you can start to think like you're trying to almost share your thoughts about how you've got to package them. And I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to do my work and then find the audience. And 9 times out of 10, you will find a section of the art market which is tuned into what you create. There are what, 7.5 billion people on the planet, and I realised that I couldn't just show it to people in my local town, because even if there was a small percentage of those people who wanted to buy my work, if they bought a couple of pieces, they're not going to buy it forever. So I have to share it out to a wider audience, and the easiest way, and I mean today with the internet, it is so easy to share your artwork. It's also great to share your artwork to get feedback. Um, and when you put it on your social media pages and you talk about it, friends and family will go, oh, that, yeah. Which is great to get that level of support. But you can also share it into places where you're getting your artistic peers to comment on your work. So places like Saatchi Art, the other cat's just walked in as well. Loie's deaf, so she meows really loudly, so I don't know whether you can pick this up on the microphone or not. She's just meowing at my face. She eventually calms down and goes away. Yeah, so where you're communicating on those ends, it's really valuable to get that feedback back. I want you to be brave, and I want you to share and show your artwork. So if you can, anything that you've created over the last while and you want to sort of share, you're more than welcome that on the post on my Facebook page where I've just put the link up, you can share your artwork there. So if you go to my Facebook page, Lee Boyd Artist, and talk about your work. Why did you do it? What is it about? Write a little description about it. Because often people just go, this is my drawing. You go, great. What is it about? A lot of people want to hear the the story as to why you create artwork, um, as a way of engaging with you, because just an image is great and might just love the image, but the reasoning behind it, even if they don't necessarily get how they're translated into the image that you've created, why those two things work, um, they will find that of interest. And if they think, oh, this person is actually putting more than just creating stuff for me to buy, rather than just creating a product, they're actually artistically developing stuff as well. This is interesting. I like this piece. I want to take this piece home with me, purchasing it. Sometimes you can do art swaps as well. That's another great one, where you're swapping artwork with your peers, and you go, oh, I love your artwork, and I love your art. And you go, well, hey, do you want to swap a piece? And you can build a collection that way as well. But as a way of communicating, it's a really handy thing to do. It's an exercise which makes you feel very vulnerable, because you're putting your artwork out there. What I'd say to you is, you can do it with a level of a filter. When you put it out there, be resolute in why you've done it and how you've done it, and be satisfied with that. You can stay open to influence, where people can say, oh, that reminds me of this particular artist, or that reminds me of that particular artist. And sometimes you can check them out and go, don't see the relevance in that person, or check the person out and go, oh wow, I didn't realise that person did that way. And what it does is it broadens your experience, because they're actually offering up other artists that you might not have heard about before for you to go and check out, and for you to research, and hopefully influence your work that way. Sometimes it's a case of they're going, I don't like it, and you go, okay, what was it about that you didn't like? And their explanation can be both beneficial. It doesn't have to be. Sometimes when you get criticism on your work, I mean, I've had some criticism. I've had a lot of criticism about my work, and I've always thanked people for their time, even if they've been rude. And I've just gone, okay, right, fine. That's the way you feel. That's the way you feel. I'm not going to tell you not to feel the way you feel about something. Thank you for your input, and that's it. That's as far as it needs to go. I don't need to burden myself with, oh, they thought it was bad, maybe I should stop doing it. If I stop doing it, I should just slap pencils and walk away from art altogether. That's just one person's opinion, and if it's not relevant to you, you can kind of create that filter where you're just going, okay, that's not necessarily relevant. Sometimes people give you advice where going, okay, the pencil work might need to improve. Have you tried this? Have you tried that? And if they're giving you pointers, they're trying to help you in some way. Sometimes people are not very good in delivering that information, and it can make like, that's rubbish, do it this way. It's the same thing, just not delivered in the same way. And you do have to kind of get down to the root of what people are advising you to do, the root of the criticism, and then decide, is it relevant to me or not? If it's not, you just leave it where it is. You don't have to take it on board. If it's something you're going, oh, okay, I can kind of see, I kind of knew that myself, but I didn't want to say, then you can take it as a piece of direction, and you can develop things with it. So I'm quite open to people telling me what they think of my work, whether they like it or don't like it, or what they would change about it, what is relevant to them. I've had people just walk up to me and go, that stuff's just weird. What are you doing that for? You want to just do normal art for normal people? And I go, okay, I do normal art for normal people too. Perhaps there's something else that you like. What type of things do you like? And I'm trying to start a conversation. Sometimes they just don't want to have a conversation, they just want to rant. And I've never tried to figure out why that individual is ranting at me, because I don't want to give it any more time. The other thing, if people are being generally nice, I can be generally nice back. If people are just being rude, I can be polite back. I don't have to be rude back, and I can leave their rudeness where it is and leave it with them. You don't know whether they've had a bad morning. You don't know whether, oh, camera's gone off. Hang on a second. We'll flick this back on. Still have this camera issue. I've just never figured out. I think it's a time for a new camera, but again, this is investment. I'll have to wait a little while to get a new camera for this. Yeah, and it reminded me of, I used to work in retail, and there we are. Just get back down again, get you back up. Sorry about the slight delay in there. I'm kind of like doing computer things. Yeah. So, but it reminded me, I used to work in retail, and one of I used to get really upset when customers came in and they weren't happy because they would often just take it out on me. Why isn't this in order? I've ordered, I've come back 10 times for this and it's never in here, and blah, blah, blah. And I used to take it very personally and be absolutely shattered at the end of the day going, oh my god, I must be so terrible, I must be so bad, oh, I'm just terrible at my job, I can't be a good person, I'm upset at how I feel with it. And then a friend of mine just went, look, it's not about you. You to them are a shop. You're not Lee Boyd, the nice person that we know. You're just a bloke who works for that company. And think of it this way: their life must be amazing to be that upset that that product's not in. If you think about all the problems that you have in your life, just day-to-day life, if the only problem in your life was that something wasn't in the shop, how amazing must their life be? And you can be happy for them. And I thought it just changed my perspective on people losing right. Now it's obviously that sometimes you go through an awful lot of hard stuff and it just bubbles out of you in appropriate times, where you kind of the frustrations of, I don't know, you were late getting up, the alarm didn't go off, you were in a rush, you went to go and do a shave and you ran out of shaving foam. There was cold water, so you couldn't get a shower in the morning. You ran down to get the bus, and the bus was late, and you're going to be late for work, and you've only got now 5 minutes because you're having to catch up. You've got 5 minutes for lunch because you had to catch up all the time you missed in the morning getting in late, and your boss shouted at you, and everything you've got to do in the computer in the morning crashed. And then you've got now only 5 minutes for lunch, and you needed to go and get that thing because it was for a birthday present for somebody, and you rush out there, and it's not in the shop, and you just go, brah, and you let people have it. It's not the shop person's fault, but you don't have time to explain all of that because you've only got 5 minutes. So in a roundabout way, when people are venting at you about your artwork, think about it this way: their life might be so great that the only thing they have to vent about is your artwork. And if it causes a reaction that way, you can go, okay, thank you for your input, thank you for your statement, but we'll leave it there, thanks, and move on, because it's anybody's frustrations, anger, they want to get it out. You've allowed them, through what you've created, to get that out. So one way you've provided a service. It's not to say that everything you do has to have glowing praise or adoration. Sometimes you want people to just go, your concept's interesting, but I don't see how it translates into what you've done. When you talk about this is what I'm getting. For example, I would get, because I've taught up to degree level, where people would try and over bake the pudding. They would throw the kitchen sink into the concept. It was this and it's that. It could be this, it could be that, it could be that. Everything had, it's this and it also could be this. And it was like nobody had made a decision. The artist hadn't made a decision what this was about. So they would say it's about society but the individual. It's about the exterior, but it's also about the interior. And there'd be so many contradictions that it became confusing. And the artwork that I was looking at, I liked, but in the explanation of it, it didn't make sense. So I get very confused, and I just go, what is this about? Just tell me in one sentence what this thing is about. And they go, well, it's about this, and it would be quite concise. And I go, perfect. That makes sense. The explanation doesn't. You're very gentle your attitude, Lee. I'll be more forceful. Yeah, you gotta kind of level it, you know, because they don't know you. When you when somebody asks me for my opinion, I always kind of think, where is this person at? If it's about art, where is this person at in their art career? Do they really want the full weight of my art knowledge, or is that going to be too heavy for their shoulders? I have to make a judgment about, and it is my judgment. I'm not judging people. I'm judging how my words can affect people. I don't want to crush anybody. I can be honest with them. I can go, okay, you're frustrated in this aspect of your drawing, okay, and it's not there yet. What is it about it that is not there? Why do you think that's happening? And I will try and draw out of people how that sort of curated in a way. But that's because I'm an art professional and I've done art tutoring and teaching before, so I know how. I'm not conceited to say I know how everybody thinks about artwork. I've had people in my classes before just not like the way I teach and not come back, which is fine, because there will be an art teacher or tutor out there for I'm giving them a very sort of ABC way of doing things, and it'll be very sort of linear, whereas mine's more explorative but specific. I try to get down what it is you want to create and how it is you want to create stuff, and I help you develop it that way. Through these demonstrations, I'm going through a particular approach of thinking about how I get things down onto the page and how I kind of process it. But this is my process. Through it, I can hopefully help you explore your processes. And it's great if it's different. It doesn't have to be the same as mine. That's what I'm saying. It's very important. If you've got this chat room point, talk about your artwork. Talk about the reasons why you do art. Talk about what you love about art, what it means to you. Even if it's just the pure relaxation of just expressing yourself, or just doing something which passes your time in a creative manner that just makes you relaxed, or whatever the reason, this is a great place to do it, because it encourages other people to go, that's exactly why I do it as well. And my work's kind of at the same level as you, and we're coming up together, and our work's developing. Are you hitting the same problems as I'm hitting? And you can share that experience, which will help you tenfold, more so than listening to art tutors like me. Sometimes your peers can help you a lot quicker because your experience is at the same level. I'm doing it from memory, but often I've had people just give me criticism in class that it isn't about me. I've listened to it and it's aimed at me. Excuse me. And I've gone, okay, you've not got what I've said, and maybe it's my fault because I haven't explained it, so I'll try a different approach and a different tack or a different direction about explaining it. But if that's not getting through and it's just become a personal thing, I can't change me, and I don't want to change them, and it may be best that they find a different tutor that can help them. That's the reason why I kind of suggest to people, try and dip into many different kind of art workshops online like this, and listen to different elements of people, how they talk about their artwork, because all of it is an influence, and you can kind of, the ones that make relevance to you, go to them. The ones that just annoy you, don't make sense to you, there's an element that you kind of like, don't switch them off completely. Maybe come back to them at a later stage, because they might make relevance then. Might be so far on advanced, or they might be so far behind you that you're kind of going, okay, I have been through this. This is boring me, but it's only more boring me because I kind of know this stuff already. So there's very little point in me kind of working on the same issues again. But it's somebody I can refer back to who's starting out, who might be great. So all of those different aspects can fill in. Alex is saying, I think the difficulty I have is to realise that criticism is entirely justified, spoiling my self-deprecation, self-deception. Yeah, do you know, it's good to have your, I wouldn't call it self-deception, um, your bubble, your self bubble. Where you think you are is still important. People keep saying, oh, I just had this in work an awful lot, in my retail experience, managerial life, where people go, push the boundaries of the box, step outside your comfort zone, never be in your comfort zone, never be in your comfort zone. Sometimes you need your comfort zone to recoup, to refine, to reflect before you move outside of your box. But don't let it become a trap where you go, okay, now I'm just comfortable and I don't want to try anything else because it's too hard. That's not so helpful. But your comfort zone is somewhere where you can hone and develop your practice. You're stepping outside of your box, as they would call it, can be a slow osmosis where you develop like a bubble being blown up. You slowly expand and your bubble becomes bigger and you encompass more space and more things. Your surface becomes bigger, your experience becomes bigger. I'd say that's more important than just being different for the sake of being different. That doesn't necessarily help you because you can repeat the same mistakes just differently doing different stuff, if that makes sense. I remember I had a thing in a management meeting where they gave us a piece of paper and they went, you've got one mark to make and this is the thing that you've got to do, and it was almost like an impossible task. You had one mark to make on a piece of paper that had to do so many different things, and it had to both be on the paper and around the paper. It had to be through the paper, blah 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 blah. And I came up with a solution that was different from their solution, which answered all of the questions, and they told me I was wrong. And I started laughing, and I wasn't being rude. I just found it really funny that the aspect of the thing they were telling us about being outside of our box and challenging ourselves and doing something different and blah blah blah. I'd done something different from what they challenged me with, and I just did it in a different way because it wasn't right. I was wrong, and they'd missed the wrong point, and it's because they got into their comfort zone of delivering something that was supposed to be expanding the minds of their participants in this managerial meeting. And at that point I realised, I might be an individual. And individualism isn't bad as long as you are aware you are part of a wider community of people. You can have your own thoughts, you can have your own thought processes, but you need to stay open to influences and possibly change the way you think because of your experience grows. If you stay in your box because this is the way you only like to think things, this is the only way you like to do stuff, and everything else is just too difficult, that's going to be stultifying, it's going to be constricting, you'll get to feel frustration and then not know how to break out of it. And this all relates back to your art practice. If you stay in your box because you know how to use pencils and I don't want to use anything else because I've just figured out how to use pencils and that's it, I'm going to be known as a pencil artist and I'm only going to do this, you do that for about 10 years and you'll be going, I'm a bit bored. And I want to change it up, but I don't know how to. And I've been telling people for years I'm this, and I've now packaged myself into a product of, branded myself as an artist as being this, and I almost feel like I can't change. So allow yourself that freedom of trying new things, trying different genres of artwork, trying different mediums occasionally, experiment with this process, experiment with that style. Going to different classes, going to different tutors, finding out what the feedback is, talking to different people about your artwork will help build and refine what it is you'd like to create. That is an ongoing process that never stops. People say, oh, you're Lee Boyd, you're the rabbit person, because they would do an awful lot of animals with rabbit heads. I go, yeah, well, I'm known for some rabbits, yeah. Which ones have you seen? Conversation about it. People go, oh, you're the pencil bloke, you're the guy who does all the pencil stuff. And go, yeah, I do a lot of pencils, but I do painting and I do clay, and we'd have a conversation and expand on what else I do. So it's often people's identification of you artistically, so they know where you are. And you are allowed to change as an artist, you don't always have to do pencil. I love pencil. I love its flexibility. I love its mark making, and there's lots of things I still like about it. But occasionally, what I'll do is I'll dip into doing a bit of oil painting, or I'll dip into doing a bit of ceramics, or I'll dip into doing a bit of charcoal and pastels. But I always pick the mediums to suit the idea about what it is I'm creating. So, in one respect, because the pencil is such a simple medium, it's often overlooked, and people think it's easy because everybody knows what pencil is. Whereas sometimes when they talk about painting, they're not so used to holding a paintbrush all the time, so it feels a little bit weird when they do it. Or oil paints, there seems to be so many different processes and solutions. And, acrylic dries so quickly, and there's so many problems with it. Watercolor, you have to be so accurate with it straight away. All of these things are illusions. They're just different mediums expressing you, the artist. You're the important one. The mediums are secondary to you. You choose the mediums to suit your needs. And sometimes your needs are lacking. So I know myself that if I want to do a painting to a particular level, a particular style, I might not have the skills straight away. That I have to develop my painting practice to get to the level to create that picture. So in the background of doing lots of different drawings and painting and different works, etc., I'll be practicing just occasionally to kind of to move along my artwork until I can get to the point of painting. There's been a project I've been working on called Mammalian, and I did the first couple of portraits, and I knew the level of painting was okay, but I wanted it to be the next level. And I've been developing my learning for a while to build up my painting skills. Now, it's not to say the very first painting I did was terrible. I liked it, and I'm happy with it. But I knew that for one or two of the other paintings I was really going to need to develop my painting skills, so I need to develop my knowledge. So I've kind of been researching into painting, researching into artists, and researching into the qualities of the mediums and how you can do it. So I'm still teaching myself. So what I'm saying to you is, you're no different than me. We're all in the same boat. We might be at different levels. Mine's just got more experience in it. If you've been doing it for as long as I have, you'd probably be better than me, to be honest with you. I've seen some people in my class and I'm just going, God, I wish I'd produced a piece of work as good as that, effortless, that looks effortless from my experience. Because when I think back to myself, I would really overwork and struggle with it, and you just kind of allow yourself to create work. That's important. You are important. You're the artist. You're in curation of it. If you're doing a piece of work and it's frustrating you or finding it too much of a challenge, don't stop. Just put it aside and work on something else different. Because when you pick up that piece of work again and put it back on the easel, you can reflect on it. You can go, I can see why I was struggling. That's the reason. And it helps you reflect. So analysing and criticising your own work, if you do it honestly, this is not about just beating yourself up. This isn't just about me going, oh, look at that. The self-deprecation, not the self-deception, but the self-deprecation where you go, oh, I'm not really good. I am not. Oh, the faces are terrible. Oh, pencil work is awful. Oh, my shading's terrible. Tonal work. Oh, don't talk to me about tonal work. When you might go, I'm quite happy with that. I'm just really pleased with it, but I can't talk about my successes because that sounds conceited. That's not what happens. What you're actually telling yourself is stay inside the box. So self-deprecation doesn't work. If I'm honest with you, it does not work. There's a balance to it, so you're not going, my work's amazing, I am the best in the world. That is self-delusion. Because there'll be a billion other artists out there who will be better than you. There's a balance in between, and that's what I'm trying to tell you to do today. Is try and find that balance. Referring back to the manimal drawing balanced. That is an aspect of Andrew's personality that I could see and I wanted to communicate, and she had that balance, and that's something I've always tried to attain in my work is a balance between concept and the execution of the medium. That they kind of blend together. That there's an aspect of using something in a traditional manner, but changing it to be in a modern concept, to maybe explore materials in a different way that traditionally they would have explored and experimented on. And I'm trying to do it in a way that creates an image which is still easily read, that can be identified, because I want people to be engaged with it, not be just impressed with the technicality, but be impressed or be absorbed into the concept and thought about something, to engage people. That's been my thing. It's not everybody's. It doesn't have to be yours. Your thing can be something which you instinctively know, but you can't verbalize just yet. What you can do is start to write some words down, just simple words, not doesn't have to be long explorative sentences. But start to write down what it is you like about your work. What is it you find successful in your work? What are you happy with? What is it you want to do? Now, often we can write a list of all the things we don't like quite quickly. We can make a big list very quickly. But what I want you to do is also try to look at where you were, say, a year ago in your artwork, or if you've just started, where you were a week ago. How far have you moved on? What's working for you? What have you learned? And it could be that you've learned that you need to do more of this, and you haven't done it yet. That can be it. Just give yourself a bit of direction. Just in my sketchbook, I've got lots of sort of words written down, little description sentences about direction and things, because they're innate to my memory to get them to do something physically, artistically. And it's a good practice to get into, because it helps you know where to go. So you never come into the studio or come back to your easel going, I don't know what to do today. I was doing something on there and I was thinking about something, and then I can't remember what it was I was working. I'll just start drawing on it. If you're giving yourself an indicator, it helps you develop your work more productively, and it seems mechanical to begin with. Once it becomes a natural part of your process, it just kind of flows more naturally. You're not having to curate your thoughts, they just come out. But it can help you develop and break down your development into bite-sized chunks. Often I see people kind of, when you're looking at their artwork, going, oh my god, how am I going to draw this? It's such a complicated image. It's a face. Oh my god, how am I going to get a likeness? It's too much. You can't take you can't eat an entire meal in one bite. You have to kind of chop it up into little bite-sized chunks and have a munch on it. Taste it. Think about it. Swallow it. Carry on with the meal. Go, didn't like that bit. Want to eat that again. Or, god, that was gorgeous. Give me more of that stuff. And you can dip in and out, but artistically, if you're trying to do an entire thing in one go, you're gonna freak yourself out. You're setting yourself up a very hard task that professional artists who are very, very experienced will be overwhelmed in doing. You're trying to do from starting out. So break it down, that you're not trying to do the entirety of the thing in one go with one pencil stroke, with one pencil, with one grade of pencil. That you can allow yourself to develop. That's an important process. Yeah, you're right. When I was doing my drawing during the process, I think it's not too bad. Then go back later, it's easy to see how far away from it really is. Why can't I see it at the time? It's something where our eyes fool us an awful lot. When we make a mark or when we're working on something, we tend to become micro-focused on things. So as you're working on a drawing, it doesn't matter if it's a tone or a shape of a shadow. If we're just working on that tone and shape of a shadow and ignoring everything else, its relevance to the surrounding elements of the picture. Say for example, it's a mouth or a nose. If you're working on that area, all you can see and think about is that nose. You're not thinking about how that relates to the shape of the face or the size or scale of something, or the darkness of the tone. As you're drawing it, you need to kind of step back to see how it relates to everything else in the picture. Because if you don't, what tends to happen is when you're focusing on something, in your mind's eye, subconsciously, it starts to become bigger. And you can see more in it, so you try to make the space bigger so you can fit more in it. And then when you stand back, you go, oh my god, I've drawn it too big. You can see this often in people when they post their portraits online, where everything is well drawn, but it just feels disconnected. And it's because I've drawn it in little bits of isolation. Rather than developing it in scale first to say, no, this is the space that it's going to fit, and this is the space where it's going to go. I haven't drawn the eye yet, or the nose yet, but I know it's going to fit within space. So when you are actually drawing that nose, you know the space that you've got to fit that nose in. You're not just drawing a nose and it suddenly becomes bigger. Now you draw an eye and it becomes bigger, and then you go, oh, I've run out of space. I'll try and squidge it in, and squidge that bit of the other eye in, because I've only got a space, so I can only fit in there. And in your mind's eye, you're going, well, I've measured everything. Everything should be right. When I stand back and look at it, it's not right. It's because you're doing it in isolation. You do have to occasionally step back and look at it in its entirety. One of the things I was talking about when I was doing the drawing, so I'll show over the drawing cam, because we will do some drawing today. One of the things I was saying about when I was drawing all these shapes and things out, as some triangles and how far it is away from the face, one of your constants is also the frame of your picture, and you can relate sort of a point on the chin for how far away it is from the corner of the page. I'm going to say the corner of this side. You can't see it because I'm in the way. So it could be, say, the point of the chin, how far away it is from the corner of the page. It's a constant space. You can see the space in between here and here. Is that the same in comparison with your reference? The angles of lines, is that the right space? Does this negative shape look right? Oh, there's lots of different aspects to drawing your portrait rather than your head and your shoulders. I can look at spaces around it which can help me fit and appropriate the proportions to that space in the right place. Once that's done, that's the architecture of your drawing in, which we've got already. You know, I'm happy with the angles and shapes and head and proportions of your head in that space. I can then look to other things, so shadow shapes, you know, the space inside the lines and the architecture, which we started to build up. You know, I can start to look at this and go, well, when I look at this drawing now, I can see this line I've got here is right, but it's just not dark enough. So I can go back over it. And it might look sharp enough, so I need to go back in and pay attention to that a little bit and build it up so it's a little bit sharper and crisper. This side might not be dark enough in comparison. So if I can't get that with, well, actually I can with this pencil, but started to run out. I did have another. I bet my cat's nicked it. She's been playing. There it is. Cat's been playing with pencils and has been sort of just taking them out of the pencil box and just moving them somewhere else, just to prove to you, by the way, I haven't gone nuts. Right now, there we are. This is the hairball that is inking. She looks huge there, but she is tiny. She's asleep. It just looks like a black blob, but this is a head with her ears. 2 ears. There's a body. It's one of her back legs, and that's actually a foot or tail. Because she's black, she doesn't show up particularly well. Oh, there we are. Better show her. She's completely asleep. So I'm balancing her on my knee at the moment. But she's been attacking my pencil boxes. Zoom you back in. There we are. So hopefully that's helpful. I know we kind of started off this morning with just me chatting an awful lot, but one of the things I'm really happy about is that we're chatting and this is working. I haven't spent 3 hours trying to get it to work, but we'll get stuck into the drawing now as well. I don't know how long we've gone. I might be on a little bit longer than 2 hours today. See how we get on. For those of you who know me, I've got my human coffee cup, instant human, just like coffee. I often feel like that in the morning. I'm just like, how do I get through a day? How do I get through a morning? And I have a coffee and then I'm like totally fine. So, ready to go. So some people go, oh, coffee's bad for you. The camera's gone off again. And I was gonna go, I've never found out what it is that's bad about coffee. I don't, you know, long term. I haven't seen any reports or anything. I've heard lots of like it can make you very sort of hyper and it can make your heart racing. And yeah, if you're having a lot of massive amounts of it, I can see how that would affect you. But you know, having the odd bit of coffee is not too bad. Oh, get rid of that. I don't know how that happened. Get rid of that. Properties. That's not the image I wanted. Yeah, sorry. Oh no. Hang on a second. I just cooked this up. This isn't a computer thing. This is me. Um, oh dear me. Right, I've just managed to knock all my own cameras off by hitting the wrong button. Um, where's that going with that? Right, hang on a second. Right, okay, hang on one second. I managed to switch off the camera and then also take it offline. So we'll have a bit of a chat while I get this up. How are you doing this week? You tell me. Have a chat in the chat window. We've got 5 views in this. I know there's a couple of you in there. What are you working on at the minute? Are you working on this same drawing? Or are you doing something different? What is it? What was the last thing you created? What are you drawing? I'm gonna get this up. I always think sometimes if I don't say anything, I'm going to force you to type. That's not fair, is it? It's Saturday morning, you don't need to. I've got some good news for you guys as well. Yeah, oh, look at that, we're back. Chatting to the Art Centre, that's for the people in Northern Ireland where I live. The Art Centre is where I was doing my drawing classes, and they are going to be running them again. Very soon they will be opening up their own website as well. So if you are not on their mailing list, join it. You can go to them on their Facebook page and link in with them there. They will be posting up about drawing classes that will be coming up. There'll be live drawing classes with students and tutors in the same building at the same time. Every student will have their own desk. I think we're looking to run a Monday class and a Saturday class, which is going to be great. Still 2 hours. I think they're going to run it for 8 weeks, so it'll probably take us up to Christmas time. I haven't got a date yet for when they're going to announce that you can apply for this yet. Really looking forward to it because being back is kind of a good process for us all to start get back to normal again, as long as it's all safe. So I think there'll be certain restrictions in place where everybody will be at their own desk and be kind of not so much of my interaction of picking up your pencils and drawing with them. So yeah, that's really great news. So that'll be coming up soon. But yeah, we'll get back to this drawing. So drawing can managed to use them on camera. Right, I'll get it back up again. It's funny, isn't it, with when you think with learning new skills, you think, oh, nailed it, got that, know that, that's how you do stuff now, that's it. If this whole experience doesn't prove to the fact here, you think you can know how to do something, you can have practiced it and done it a few times, be confident that you know this stuff, and suddenly it doesn't work. Then what are you going to do? And it's sometimes you have to go back to basics and look at what is the root cause of this going wrong. Going to go through it step by step, and it may be just one element that you've missed, which has thrown you off because you've become a bit blasé with your knowledge. You think you've done it, but you really haven't. You kind of rushed ahead too far, because you kind of go, well, I know it's stuff. I don't even need to do this now because I'm so good, but you do, and it makes you go back to the beginning of the saga. So just like these computer things, when it mucks up, I have to kind of go back and go through my head, oh, what is it I've done? How have I done that? Right, okay, and just switch this off and start that off again. So I need to go back and go through this, basically. So my one-to-one camera, video capture device, add a source. Sometimes I need to talk through it. Like I'd write these things down. I need to add a new source. Do this. Done. Go back to the bottom. There. Okay. And my one-to-one. Oh, that's why. There you go. So I've got the drawing back up, which is great. I've lost me, but for now, that's not necessarily a bad thing, is it? Give you a break from looking at my face. Desiree, you're still working on drawing of your niece, and as you say, when you leave it, go back to it, you see bits where you've gone wrong. Just don't look at them as wrong, just areas that you can change. That's because that's what they are. I recently worked on the commission I was working on. Not everything was perfect in the right place to begin with, but I had to keep going back to it and working over it and working over it. That's why I spent basically about 2 weeks working on it, because I didn't want to rush it out in one day. I think if you broke it down into hours, it would probably be about 24 hours solidly. One, I can't draw like that. You know, there's no point drawing to the point of exhaustion where you can't then do anything else, and you need a couple of days to recuperate. It sounds very romantic, but it's practically ridiculous. Just no point to it. Sometimes you have to, I have to in my work for long consistent periods of time, but then I stop and need to take a break so I can refresh. And when I go back to it, I can see areas going, oh, it's starting to veer off a little bit there, and I can bring it back. So it's good that you can see it though. That's the main thing. You're not going to make an excuse. You know that you've got to change things. So that is good. Live classes would be great. I still love these ones. I love these ones too. I'm going to carry them on. I may have to change the times of them, because I think the real life classes that I do on a Saturday will be from 10 to 12 on a Saturday, which means obviously I start this at 11. So I might just start this, say, at 2 in the afternoon, give myself a good bit of a break in between so I get from there to here, and then do it for a couple of hours. Are you happy with that? But that's not going to be yet. I'll let everybody know when that is. Alex, you're just trying to finish this picture on the iPad. So great, you're doing the self-portrait at the moment. It's a really good challenge. You learn a lot from doing self-portrait, because what you think about your face, you think you know because you see it every day, or it's you. You suddenly start to see different things. I did a portrait of my dad. It was a couple of years back now, and it's funny where you obviously recognise your relations, you see their faces, and you know them. But it's not until you sit down and you look at them, you notice little things, and it was a great process to do. So I've been drawing family relations and things. There's a lot of pressure because it's family and they will tell you what is right and what isn't right. But there are little things, and you might notice about them that they haven't noticed about themselves. And when you start to place it and draw it in, it kind of emphasizes it a little bit. But, oh, I didn't think I looked like that, because they'll look at themselves in the mirror, which is a reverse reflection. And you're seeing them from a different perspective as well. So all these things can be really, really interesting. Okay, so let's get back on with this drawing. I think we can sort of highlight to different areas about positioning of different things. What I'm starting to pick up now, I've got some good basics in there. I do kind of want to establish some aspects of where some of the features are, like the eyes, but again, I'm not drawing an eyeball. What's interesting is where this glass frame goes over this eye. I can't see too much actual detail. You know, it's hidden behind a glass which has got a reflection on it, and there's the highlights in it, and there's how light is reflecting in the eye, and it's hard to tell one from the other. So I could only draw what I see, and I only ever draw what I see. I don't want to kind of make a fake kind of approximation of things in there. And I can only put marks. So I actually end up only ever drawing marks and suggestions of things. I'm not trying to kind of create the pupil and create the highlight. What I'm doing is actually looking at this little kind of lines and shapes of just more on a macro level there, or on a smaller level. You can see that, where I'll zoom you in a little bit. Again, these are only about 15 centimeters tall, so I've got to be more accurate with my mark making, because this is what I'm saying. If you get a chance, draw on a bigger scale. Drawing on a bigger scale gives you much more flexibility and freedom. When you're drawing on a small scale, small marks make a difference. So what I'm looking at here is there's a slight triangle, and I'm looking at where the corner of your eye comes in to this point in your eye here. You see that? I'm looking at that point in relation to how far away it is from this side of your glasses. There's a little dark line which gives me the bridge of your glasses here. So if that marks that sort of distance away, then when it comes up this way, there's an angle there, which is an angled part of your glasses. Then there's a straighter line which comes across. You see, when I was putting a line in, I ghosted it a couple of times. You know, I'm starting here, stopping there, starting there, stopping there, starting there, and then did I put the line in? It's so I could get my hand or my muscle memory used to kind of that space, and then putting the mark in. It looks like I've just gone, and it looks very impressive, but I'm kind of planning it out first. What I've got now is this kind of diamond shape without this edge here, and it's more representational with what I've got here. What I've started to realise is this angle is more vertical. I had it too slanted before. My initial impression was it was slanted, and overall it kind of gives that impression, but I then know where the bottom of your glasses comes out, which is much closer to the top of the nostril here. And there's a slight curve to this line. It's not straight across. As I said before, the thing about glasses is they're a great architectural thing on the face. If you're ever drawing a face with glasses on, it's actually quite good in one respect, because it's a consistent structure. Where there's slight variations to one side of the face and the other, we have slightly more built up muscles on one side than the other side, because we've got predominance to smile or chew on one side, therefore muscular slightly different. So there's slight differences, but glasses tend to be the same. There's a thing, if you click back to, click back to my glasses. So click back to my glasses, there's a uniformity to them, but they actually sit on certain features on my face. They give you a nice line that you can link up to other things. There's a structure to them. There's an angle to them. You know, sometimes when you put glasses on, you don't sit straight, or the arms get twisted because we sat on them. But how they mix up the character to the face, where one eyebrow will appear above the eye frame, and one will actually be in it. All these indicators, if we don't pay attention to them, we'll draw them like that, which looks more. We'll draw them in their perfect position, but naturally when they sit in the face, but if I never pointed it out to you, you wouldn't necessarily know it. And it's only because sort of where they're sat over sort of headphones and earphones and hats and stuff, there's a slight kink to it, but they give a good structure to it. They sit off of the face, so there's space around here, which creates things like this, which is a shadow line, where it does, like a shadow that curves around the face, and this shadow which curves around here gives you the shape and space of the face. So it's the same on Alex's portrait. If we click back to that. So you can see there's a slight darkness here. Is the shadow of these glasses sitting on this face, and it helps me know how dark I need to get this shadow as well, because this all blends in. It's not necessarily that harsh or on the rest of the face. I can soften it and blend it into this area, so the transition from light to dark is slower. As it gets darker down here, it should be the same depth. Now that in isolation looks quite dark, looks like he's got a bruise on his face. As you develop it at the rest of the picture, this can allow me then to go, okay, well if that's that dark, this has to be a lot darker as well, so I can darken this bit down. Darken this bit. And this then becomes right across. I can make that pupil a lot darker. The white of the eye isn't that white, so I can tone that down. So a little bit of light application of pencil just over the top. There's a bit of shadow that comes underneath the eye here. So I'm relating the lights and the darks. There's a shadow that's here, which is a lot darker, similar to that shadow here. So I can darken that. And it follows the frame of the glasses. It goes over the top of the eye, gets a little bit lighter, it stops about there, so it gives the hint of the eyelid itself, because the glasses frame is just kind of sitting on that point at the top of his eyelid. The glasses frame sitting just on the point of the eyelid, so we get the eyelid itself where the eye orbit is, just there, and there's where your eyebrow is just quite light. I can actually darken this area down as well, I think, a little bit. Again, when it comes across, it transitions into being a little bit lighter, so I'll pay attention to that, so I'm not making it too dark and too heavy. So we're starting to build up form through our shading and tone. by concentrating about what is dark and what is light, and the shapes of things, and the shapes of the shadows, how it falls across the frame of the face. You notice it's gotten a little bit darker just on the side of the nostril. This isn't the nostril I'm drawing the shadow shape around the nostril, which gives me the shape of the nostril. So this little tsunami shaped wave, I'm thinking like that tsunami shaped wave, like I'm thinking about that old Japanese print, you know, can you know which one I'm talking about, with the big wave that kind of rolls over. So I see sort of, I make associations, and this might be helpful to you. What is a shape like? It's like a visual memory, what things are like. Now I start to see, I might have this mark too far out, I might need to bring it in a little bit. I think it's in a little bit. Not much, but it is definitely in a little bit. It's darker. I'm not putting it as dark as it is right now, because I'm not too sure if I get it in the wrong place. I put it too dark, I might not be able to get rid of it. You can see now I'm starting to build up that shape. The isolation of how dark that was starts to blend out. Now I can blend this back in a little bit more. So people think tone is just one application of putting a shadow on all over in one go, and it's not. It's a build, putting layer upon layer. You're putting a dark on top of the lights and putting light on tops of darks, how they kind of mix in together. Where's the drawing camera? Just want to get this other camera view, because I feel like hang on. No, that's not it. Starting to run my cameras again. I should just learn to leave. Look, there we are. That's the one I wanted. There we go. Hold that back there. Good. Just a little bit. There we go. Sorry about the delay. It's slightly different than what I had it before, but it just feels so when I'm kind of explaining things to you, from me to you, I'm kind of talking to the camera and moving my hands around like that, because communication is not just my voice. That if I'm not kind of talking to you that way, I don't feel like I'm actually talking to you, and that's more for me than it is for you. It's so I know that when I'm talking to you, my explanation it gets through, if that makes sense. Imagine just talking to every. It's a bit like COVID, in the sense where you're communicating with everybody behind a mask. You feel like you're not necessarily there communicating with them, and it feels like there's this barrier. So when I'm not necessarily on the screen talking to you, it doesn't feel like I'm there to me, or you're there. I know it's just weird, it's probably just a weird arty thing, but it's kind of important. But yeah, now we've got the picture up anyway, so I'll pop that back up. Where was I? Yeah, about transitions of shapes and shadows. So all of these things have a relationship. When you build the tonal aspects up as a whole together, if you just work on one thing in isolation, it becomes perfect. You'll then get a fear about moving across the picture as well, and that I want to alleviate by not going too far into finishing one area off. I want to make sure that it relates to the next space, so I can walk across the space by putting in the next level of tones and shapes and shadows in. This shadow is really an interesting one because it gives me a lovely side of the philtrum. You know that dip in the top of your lip? Just here. Because this gives me a little tiny shadow just underneath the nose, which I need to darken a little bit. Gives me the centre of the philtrum coming down, and then a little tiny bit of shadow just above the top lip. I can see now that the top lips, the actual lip line itself that I've had there, needs to come down a little bit. I can actually use this shadow as your top lip and just stretch that line down a little bit. So this shadow shape can become your top lip. And I'm starting to stretch the line down. You see how that's kind of widened a little bit? There is a shadow, just a little tiny one, just at the centre of your mouth. This line is quite, a little bit vertical. Sorry, not vertical, horizontal. Not perfectly horizontal, but a little bit. It's just like, I don't know, 5 degrees up. If you want to think about it in degrees, I just think of up and down to keep it nice and simple. And it comes out almost in line with that nostril there, so I know it needs to come out of there a little bit more before it goes up in this way. Same thing again, kind of ghosting the line before making the mark. This is sort of horizontal. There's a little bit of shadow now for the bottom lip in different places, so it just helps widen this darker line that I have here out a little bit. It creates a very thin slither of a triangle. Again, drawing this on such a small scale is quite a challenge because you've got less to work with in space, but the processes are exactly the same. If it was a large face, I'd just be making larger movements. There's a little bit of shadow just from this bottom lip here. I think I've got the shadow coming out too much on the right hand side, so what I'm going to do is just take that back a little bit, because I think your top lip stops before you reach the corner of your mouth. There we go, and it's the same on this side a little bit, but it's a little bit more shallower that way. And if we just tidy up, move to that shadow over that line a little bit to get it thinner. Dab it a couple of times just to take the darkness away from it. Because we're putting the graphite on so lightly, you can dab graphite on the surface and it lifts it off. You need to make sure you clean your rubber out though, because obviously lifting it off and it's just on the surface of the rubber. If you go to a clean area and dab it, you're going to put little tiny black spots because you're transferring graphite just with the rubber tip. You can see I'm just lifting off that little bit. There's a much bigger space here around down that way is better shape. I don't think this line is necessarily so linear at that point. It kind of widens out, so I'll go back into the pencil. So where that was just a line coming down, I want to kind of widen it out to become a wider shadow. And then where your comes around that corner mouth, just there. I'm looking at sort of the space between this bit and this bit at the moment. Very tight curve is just about there, and then we get a straight line coming down. And then there's a slow curve just that way. And then it disappears into the shadow. The shadow comes right down to about there. So I'm starting to see more spaces and shapes now into a small area that we're looking at. So this is very similar about so when you draw in a small thing in a small area and you focus on it, sometimes it can appear bigger towards you, and if you don't look at it in context with everything else, you can lose perspective in it. You know, I could end up drawing this draw and the draw ends up migrating to be sort of too big. So I've got to keep the space right, but that means you've got to reflect back to the rest of the face. So if that is the size of the mouth, there is almost like a semicircle which comes around. It's like a very refined, light, delicate shadow which comes around almost in that kind of shape. The camera's gone off a bit. There's 1 second, switch it back on. I'd love there to be just one button that does all this for you. I'm sure they will develop it at some stage, but as a marketable idea, which I'm now trademarking, remote tech people who can sort all of this stuff out for you, who don't have to be in the room with you, can be anywhere in the world, and they'll just do your tech stuff for your stream as a service. So this is my idea, so nobody's allowed to take it, and if you do want to take it and run with it, go pay me. But I'm copyrighting the idea. It'd be so much easier just to get your stuff done and let everybody else fiddle around with the cameras that don't work properly. Sort all this rubbish out. Where we are, window unlock for you. Cat, you can come back here. There we are. We're back. So the cat's just woken up, and Inky is lovely. We do love her, but she has a tendency just to be in everything, and she will yeah, touch my face. Oh, that's nice. She will just stand on the keys and switch everybody off, so I have to keep her off the keyboard. And now she can play with my earphones. Right. Problem is, if she gets too bouncy, are you going to go back to sleep? If she gets too bouncy, I have to put her on the floor. Right, you going to go to sleep? That's what I was going, don't wake the baby. Yeah, she was real kept, so right, take a quick slap. Guys, yeah, tell me, so I know, Desiree, you're working on Picture of Your Niece, and Alex, you're working on this picture. What are the rest of you guys working on? Are you doing drawing? Are you thinking about getting into drawing or artwork? Have you attended any classes? What's your experience like? I've got to write a blurb for my art class, and it's been the same blurb that's been in there because it was quite descriptive, just about what I do, and it's for anybody at any level, because it doesn't matter whether you're just starting out or whether you're a professional. This is about developing your work on an individual basis. The way I run my classes is I give it like a talk for the first session, a 2-hour talk, which you're probably quite used to now. In fact, I can just talk for 2 hours. But it is more introduction to find out about what you're doing and the way you're doing your artwork, so I can best help you do your stuff. Because I don't teach a class all the same thing all the time. I'm teaching people going at different rates and learning experiences and different practices. Because you can be a professional and you just hit a plateau with something and you don't know how to move it on to the next stage. You might have an idea, but you're not too sure where to go with it. Sometimes you need that feedback. I do personally. I like to talk to other artists and get feedback in that way. Sometimes when you're in a learning environment and you're seeing, reflecting back on where you were in your art career because somebody else is very similar to it, you can see how far you've come, and so that experience is always beneficial, I think, working with other artists. Whether you're just starting out and you've got no confidence and you're scared to make a mistake, then you can realise, oh, I'm saying everybody's making mistakes, but their work's always improving, so I can make mistakes too. It's encouraging that way. It's important, I think, to if you're learning to invest in that time. We may say to ourselves, oh no, I don't need to go to a class. I can do this at home. And then you try and do it at home, and you can't get 5 minutes to sit down and do a drawing. You have to either be very regimented or kind of strict with yourself and your time to go, no, I'm drawing, I can't do the washing up right now. It will have to wait till I'm finished. It can feel like you're being difficult, and the life in the home can be a balance of things. So just the pure luxury of having time to invest in your artwork is always good. And if it's out elsewhere, like a drawing class, and you make a commitment to go to something, you're going there with a purpose, and you're almost in the headset of creating as soon as you walk through the door. You're not going to be going in there and procrastinating for the next 2 hours. You're not going to be going in there pretending, oh yeah, I will do this in a second because I have to go and mow the lawn or feed the cat or do this or do that. It can be a really good commitment to both your time, but also it's a discipline for yourself and your practice. So I was kind of like suggesting, not just for my own class, but wherever you are in the world, if you're unsure, try it out, have a go, try out a couple of them, because not every art class is going to be the right one for you. It's a trial and error thing, like most things, like a flavour. You have a taste of it, see if it works, tastes nice, works for you. And if it doesn't, you can try another one. It's like if you're a kid and you grabbed a sweet and you didn't like it, you wouldn't think all sweets were bad, you just think that one was bad. You try another sweet. Remember the Quality Street back in the day? It used to be like 14 different flavours. I think they've reduced the numbers down, but it used to be loads and loads of different flavours, and everybody in the household would have their favourite. It's not that they didn't stop eating all of the Quality Street because their favourite was gone. There would still be. There's always one Quality Street left towards the end of the eating through the box of Quality Streets, and it was normally, I quite like the orange ones and the coffee flavoured ones, but if we go into different households, there's always a different sweet left at the bottom. It's really weird. But yeah, if you just say, oh, I don't like sweets because I've had one and I didn't like it, art classes are like that. You have to kind of try them out, and you have to kind of see them through sometimes, because where your perception of something right at the very beginning might be a little bit skewed by your personal experience. As you go through the class, so to see a whole class all the way through, that's when you can make your assessment to go, this is for me, or "Ooh, this isn't for me, I'm going to try a different one again." It's okay to kind of have an artistic tourism view to your education about art, to tour around to see which best suits you, to find art tutors that work for you. Um, it's good to hear about different art tutors as well. I like to talk about Jo Hatley's class. It's also down at the Arts Centre, because her approach is different to mine, but because she's a different artist. But she's an artist I kind of respect in what she creates, and the way she does things, and it opens the experience and experimental process up to artists that I don't necessarily delve too much into on a class-wide basis. It's more on an individual basis. If people are having problems trying to achieve something, like they've got a focus or name for it, like a texture of material, something like that, I can show them a couple of experiments that are relevant to that. Whereas Jo's drawing experiences are about experimenting with mediums and approaches, that she's developing out those skills of exploratory, finding out how to make marks. So when it comes to trying to focus in about how to make a specific mark for a specific thing, you've got that flexibility of playfulness. I tend to do it a little bit sort of more focused, going towards drawing a thing. Hers is a more of a drawing, but it's a wonderful drawing class, and it's a lot of fun. And it breaks down some of the fears that I often talk about breaking down. So we're actually talking about the same thing. We just come at it from two different angles. And I've had students do both classes and benefit from both classes as well. So I always encourage people to. I am not the only way people should learn to draw. People should learn to draw lots of different ways and lots of different styles. And if you have examples of that, different people you may have found on YouTube, you type them up. Write a little, share a link, and let us know. Because I think it's important. I'd rather share information out than pretend I am an oracle, because I'm not. I am definitely not an oracle of all knowledge. I don't know enough, because I'm still learning myself, and it's still a process. It's a process that I like, that sense of exploration. If you can see if you can see my microphone disappearing off the top of my head, it's because my cat is now chewing the cable. It's probably just about to get off. Just go to sleep. Go back to sleep. You're so nice and cute. He's now chewing my hand. She's going through a teething stage. I don't know if you remember Inky, the drawing I did of a couple of, it was about 4 or 5 weeks ago now. How tiny she was, and how flat her nose was, and her nose is broadening. We noticed it last night. We've had her now for 2 weeks. It's just a short period of time how much her face is changing, but physically she's starting to get a bit bigger now. So I was thinking about, if I was drawing her from life, how difficult that would be, because all the proportions are changing, and it feels like they're changing on a daily basis. A little bit of shadow here I'm going to put in just underneath his shirt. I did the shadow down the side of his collar, and I've got this one here as well. Tonally they're very similar. This one's a little bit darker. And that way to start to chew that a bit too much. Just underneath here, these shadows are very similar, so they're a good indicator. They're not as dark as they need to be right now, but they're a little bit darker as I put them in. Understanding how these shadows work is that this is going to be darker at this point because this part of the material is folded out and over. So always try to think about the physicality of the things that you're drawing. what is the shirt material doing? It's going to be sharper and cleaner, so I need a sharp, cleaner line. This line is extended, this sharp, cleaner line is extended right the way through there. This one goes into it, so it needs to go right up and clear that line. This needs to be a little bit darker, so it appears too light. It's darker in this point, it gets lighter as it goes out. So I'm only looking at that shadow in that particular point, but I'm aware of these other two shadows for tone depth, that this might need to be a little bit darker here. And this needs to be darker here. So these three shadows, oh, you can't see them. Hang on a second. This is why I need an alarm. It's another copyrightable idea that when you're doing interactive stuff, that people can, because it's very hard, you can't get everybody to talk at the same time. They could have some sort of a binger that you could go beep beep, and it would make the streamer look at their screen, so we can see that we may have missed things like camera angles onto the drawing. I was talking about these shadows here. These shadows are now very, very similar, but they help me figure out a tone to the rest of the face, because visually they were very similar, so I needed to make them similar from the reference picture. I can then maybe do for like these two shadows as well right now, but I want to relate it back to the head and the spaces of things. I can now start to see the shapes of the shadow that comes on and around here is very light and very thin, but it's about the tone of a very light application of this HB pencil. That's all I'm working with at the moment, this is HB pencil. I can now put in this tone, it's like a triangular tone from that line and then I'll go back in and do this shadow here, probably the same, just an HB shadow. It's quite light. Again, you can see I'm not putting in pencil strokes, I'm really lightly building up the graphite. If I'm just to kind of scribble it in, I'm adding texture in the pencil strokes rather than applying the graphite to be a tone, like a whole flat surface of tone. I can put in texture as I refine the picture towards the end of it if I wanted to, so certain aspects of the hair or the shirt or the skin will have a texture to them that I might be able to sort of experiment and dapple in a razor or a brush with a brush or anything to get the texture I want. But initially I need a tone of the whole space in which to place that. I'm starting to make sure that I don't get lost too much about the size and shape of the face. So again, I'm kind of slowing the process down. My eyes bounce a lot backwards and forwards between the two, both the image and the reference. Make a slight suggestion better as to where that ear is. This is straighter down. I think I've moved this cheek in too far that way, so I'm going to move this line out a little bit. There's a little slight shadow which comes in underneath that. this is that semicircle thing I was talking about earlier. But it's broken up. It's not the perfect semicircle, obviously. It's on the face. How that shadow fills in. This is to me, too light over the whole thing, so I'm going to do a light wash of graphite over there. I'm going to go over the whole entirety of that face very lightly. Just to tone it down, bring it together. And same in between the shirt and the neck. Here, it's a slight shadow. This kind of light application of going over a whole space sort of unifies things and pulls things together. And then you can go back over it and refine the darknesses by going back over almost with the same weight of application of graphite. Because you're putting it over a layer, it appears to be twice as dark, and this is how you get that real subtlety in shadow shapes. And if it doesn't work, it's okay, because you can dab it off slightly just with an eraser. Looking at face there, I think this actually comes out this way a little bit more. Same thing with this ear, is a bit darker than I have it. Like a small, like a tick. It's like that type of tick. Just give the illusion of a shadow. In here, and there's a small triangle just about there. And that part right here, and that comes down. So to create the illusion of that ear, it's been backwards sticking a small triangle. I don't know what ears necessarily look like, what some ears look like. Just down that whole area, back a bit. I know what this particular ear looks like from this particular angle, so I don't have a preset idea about what things actually look like. I tried to dump that a while back because you'll see videos online about how to draw ears, how to draw eyes, how to draw a nose. You can understand the anatomical aspects of these features, so you understand the physicalities of them, like the eyeball and the cornea sits in the front, and how the eyelid goes over the top, and how the eyelids join, and where the tear duct is. You understand all those elements to it, and if you're drawing it for that reason, it's a good exercise. But how to draw an eye, and people go, draw a circle, draw another circle for the pupil, all sounds amazing, and you'll get a reasonable looking eye until you go to draw somebody's face and you realise the eye, that eye is completely different, and you can only see part of that eye, and it's not giving you all the same information, so you'll subconsciously you'll always revert back to what you think an eye should look like, and you'll go back to that kind of very almond shaped looking eye, and you'll copy and paste it almost onto the drawing that you want to try and achieve. And also you make it look like they're directly straight at you that way, even though the picture of Alex is kind of facing us. There's also a slight angle to it because we're looking up. There is glasses in the way, there's light reflection, so we can't see certain features of the corner of the eyes, or can't quite make out the features of the iris or the top of the eyelid, etc. But if we go back to our subconscious understanding of what an eye looks like, we will almost copy and paste that onto it. So we'll draw the eyes in like that, and it won't look right. And you go, well, I know how to draw an eye because I did that class, YouTube video, and drew an eye, and it looked like that. But when I tried to do this eye, it wasn't the same. It's because it's not the same eye. So I try not to think of features as what I think they look like. I'm aware of the features and I try to draw what I see of them. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes more sense. And you have to let me know, by the way. I'm not psychic. If none of this makes any sense to you, let me know, because I will explain it to you in a different way. And also, kind of, sometimes my accent is different, and my explanation of things people get lost in my accent. So I'll say something and people go, I don't know what you said, and they'll feel embarrassed to tell me. But as a tutor, I kind of need you to tell me if there's elements of things I'm explaining and you haven't quite captured because of something I've said. I won't take it personally if you say, can you just repeat that, or what do you mean by blah blah blah. And I've got no problem. I'll come back and I'll say. People are lovely because they're afraid to upset or offend, but you won't necessarily upset or offend me. You will make me a better tutor. That's the way I look at it. I'm going to put this highlight across the bridge of the nose where it is on the glasses. So this light. It's thinner than that, which we can go back in and refine. Just for the frame itself. Because I think these marks are really key to kind of framing where the eye actually goes on this right hand side. I'm going to soften that whole area down as well with a little brush. So I'm just using a brush to kind of pull all the graphite together. It'll look like it's really darkened it or made it go fluffy. I'm just blending the graphite in that's there, and what I'll go do is I'll go back over and refine it again. And it's not that I did it wrong. What I'm doing is I'm building up layers. I can also use it, the graphite that I pick up on the brush, to sculpt in some tonal aspects of the hair, which is really light application. So this is almost like painting with a graphite. But here, I can pick out some highlights now with the mono eraser. Even using just it to dab a shadow shape in there now. For the other eye. I think underneath this chin is a little bit darker. I need to go back in that with a pencil. I could also do the entire shirt as well. Just give myself a bit of a deeper tone. It doesn't work with that smaller brush, you can use a bigger brush. You can see I'm kind of using this kind of vertical approach because the shirt is more vertical. kind of following the shape of the form. Can you see I'm working on one side of the shirt? It's starting to feel just a touch darker than the right hand side, and I can work areas to be a little bit, feel just like a little bit darker than the next one, very very subtly. So you can see how I've worked on a slight angle there, just to create the illusion of a highlight and work in a line just with the tip of the brush. It's really subtle. I'm starting to pick up a light in a dark area. You might not be able to see that quite so much on the camera. I'll zoom back out. You can see it pick up a little bit where this whole area of the shirt is feeling a little bit darker than this side. It's because I want to create the illusion of a line of a shadow just going down this way, which gives me a slight indication to where that fold in his shirt's going to be. You know what I mean? Same one down here as well. Now I'm using the graphite that's already on the page. What you can do is you can dip your brush into graphite dust from, you can buy graphite powder, but I would suggest that if you're sharpening your pencils on, like doing the long pencil sharpening, like I do, my pencils like this one, when I refine the shape of my pencil, I'm using a emery paper or the graphite block, so the sanding block, using that to refine the edge. It creates an awful lot of graphite dust, and if you get a little pot, you can tap the graphite dust into there and you create your own. Saves you buying it, because I think to buy it's about, you know, it can be about a tenner. You can buy different grades of it, and if you've already getting it because the byproduct of sharpening your pencils, it's an awful cheaper process. So a bit of a tip, money saving exercise. But you can actually use your brush to dip in there, fluff it off on a bit loose paper, so you're not actually putting a lot of debris onto your page, but you're loading the bristles in your brush with graphite, and then using that to draw with. Camera's gone off. You are all still there, aren't you? You let me know. Hope so. Let's get this camera up for you. Yeah. So, yeah, so it's a good, you can actually draw with the brush as well, especially when you come to larger areas. It's very similar to a pencil. The only thing I would say is don't put streaks on, don't try and cover it really quickly. It'll take you time to layer your graphite down with a brush or a pencil, or direct from a chunk of graphite like that, you know, big block. Build up a nice even layer, so you're reducing the pencil streaks and lines out of it. If you want them in expressively, you're doing them for a reason, fine. But if you're laying it up because you want the image to come out, you need to pay attention about how you put the graphite down. Don't rush it. Slow down. Still here, taking it all in. Whether I can bring it out onto my artwork is another thing. Yes, you can. You can, of course you can. If you're listening to it and it's making sense and it's starting to absorb, it'll come out. You just need to see it in your artwork. So if you go in and you go, right, I'm going to fill in this area, and you start doing this, you go, whoa, hang on a second, don't scribble, lay it in slowly. So right now my whole job is to layer this area in, so I'm not going to scribble it, I'm just going to take my time. And you take your time, you do that one task, then step back and go, okay, it needs to be darker, so go back in, that area needs to have a little bit of a dark shadow. You can build up tonally quite quickly large areas, and initially people would look at them and go, oh, I'll scribble it and quickly be fine. Or like I was saying right at the very beginning of drawing the portrait, if you don't get the aspect of the proportions of the shoulders right, it'll make the head look too small or too big, which can throw out all of the hard work you do in the facial features, are just kind of lost by the simple marks that you make for shoulders. These were just simple marks, but they were done in relationship to the size of the head. If I just slapped them in really quickly and didn't really think about them, it can make the whole portions of the features and the faces look weird because they've got shoulders too small or too big. Still there, that's great. Always happy to hear people are still there. Sometimes I listen to podcasts and I'm doing other stuff at the same time. Like I'm working in the studio, listening to a podcast, and I can hear people going, guys, I hope you're still there, and I'm going, oh Christ, yeah. Yeah, I'm here too. So I know necessarily you guys might be, I listen to ones when I do the shopping, so it's not a case I can join in on the typing side of it. There's no better companion to walk around a supermarket doing your weekly shop than listening to a podcast. Although I was listening to music yesterday, which is a bit disconcerting for other people walking around me, because I can't walk like that. I look like I do, and sometimes people can't see I've got headphones in because my hair's quite long. So it must have looked really weird. I caught myself on halfway around and went, oh, people might think I've lost it. So I was like flicking the hair back and taking the earbuds out so they could actually see I was listening to music. It's just my own paranoia. I know it is. People don't really care half the time. Right. I, for the life of me, still can't think why last week's session was so technically challenged, shall we say. Because I really can't think what else I did differently this week or from the previous weeks. Just everything stopped last week. Yeah. Alex, you're still trying to copy the pic, blah 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 on the iPad. Yeah, good. Just take your time. Take your time. I do miss the Sky portraits. The kind of Sunday 4 hours of drawing a face, and it's just pure concentration. I do actually miss it. But then I've also been quite busy. But there's something I quite liked about this social aspect of everybody drawing the same thing together. It's quite interesting. So yeah, if you want to draw these portraits, you're more than happy. You can do a screen capture, copy the portrait in the bottom right corner, and you can. Oh, sorry, I was just thinking. But yeah, if you can do a screen capture, you can kind of zoom in, and make that bigger. Will you be doing this chat when your classes resume? Angela, yes I will. Yeah, I intend to keep them going because it's an enjoyable aspect of my art practice. So I'm going to, it might not be at 11 o'clock, might be a couple of hours later. I'm also doing a different platform called Twitch, which I'm trying to find out a regular time, but I kind of like the freedom of it. It's just nice to have people in the background just having a chat as you work. It's another form of distracting my mind when I'm working. I also listen to a lot of artists on there as well. There's different artists of different genres. There's guys doing lots of computer and comic type stuff, but there are some traditional artists on there as well. And you can just sort of stick them on whilst you're working. so I listen to them. I listen to YouTube videos as well. But yeah, I do plan to keep this going. I don't. Initially, it was to sort of reach out to the class that I would have normally, um, to keep it going that way, to see how it would work, and I've kind of enjoyed the process so much I've just decided to add it to my practice of about what I do. Alright, Angela, you're based over in England, is that right? I might be completely way off. I'm always interested to find out what the art scene is like in different areas around the country. I mean, I don't need to know personal locations, but just in general about how art is viewed, what sort of facilities you have. We are lucky here. We've got an art centre in our town, which is really developed over the last few years, about sharing out the expertise of artists in the location. We have a thing called Creative Peninsula, which is all the areas that live in what they call the Arts Peninsula in North Down. There's a good volume of artists who are really talented, and we come together once a year for a big market in the town square. It's more of a showcase, but we also do sort of studio visits and workshops. I say we, the art centre put on. I don't do it, but it's interesting to go around and see the different working practices of different artists in one day. I do like this tour bus. But the actual arts and crafts market is something I really I do it occasionally when I can, because I could be busy doing either working myself or do sort of extras work in films, and sometimes they clash with dates and things that you can't commit to them. So yeah, I'm interested to see what the art world's like where you live. I always like to try and support my fellow artists at these things, go around, and I do want to specifically at Christmas time, where we have it's like a Christmas market of local artists and craftspeople as well, and I do most of my Christmas shopping there, because I can look around and go, oh, that person would love this, oh, that person would love that, and just to buy, especially with Andrea. Andrea will, she knows a lot of the artists, and she goes, oh, do you see that person's this and that person's that, and I can make a mental note of it, and then I can go in and sort of basically go around and do my Christmas shopping, buying all the things that she likes. But it's really nice to buy things that have been uniquely made by crafts and artisans and artists that are there now, and it's not that expensive compared to what you find in the shops. Into places like TK Maxx and home stores and different places like that, and have a vase on the shelf, and you look at it and it's X amount of money, and there's hundreds of thousands of these things mass produced somewhere, and then you go to a craft show and you see one and you think, for a few quid more I can buy something I really love. I know that love has been put into its making, and I really like it. So yeah, I was trying to support people. I was just wondering, when was the last time you guys sort of bought something local, artistic wise? Oh, not even local, just artistic wise, that have you seen on the internet and bought that way? Always interesting to hear how people sort of consume art, for want of a better marketing term. Something you ever consume art. I think you're a mini custodian of it, because none of the stuff we can take with us, we can sort of pass on. I always love that idea that we do a lot of charity shop poking, and where somebody's had a passion for art, may not be appreciated by everybody in the family, and when things get passed on and left behind, some people might not appreciate them, just not like them, and send them off to a charity shop, and then you're walking around a charity shop, and then you suddenly find, oh look, there's a Rembrandt. I always got that dream of sort of discovering a priceless piece of artwork that's just been kind of totally disregarded and totally forgotten. It's a little dream. But sometimes you can find original pieces of artwork in there. The funny thing was, I had one of my degree pieces, and this is going back to 1993, appeared in a charity shop in Bangor, and because it had my name on it, one of my art friends went, did you do this? And I went, oh god, yeah, that was years ago. And sent me a picture. I went, oh my god, that is mine. And they went, it's in the charity shop. I was like, great, fine. And I was seriously gonna go down and just buy it back. And I thought, do you know what? I'm not gonna, because if it might even get chucked out at the end of the day if it doesn't sell. But it's sitting there, and if somebody might like it and buy it, they're buying an original piece of artwork that was part of my art history. And yeah, I came very close to go down and getting it myself, because it sounds embarrassing that your artwork's in a charity shop, but that was actually that's my little dream. So hopefully it's karma, because I've left it out there. It'll come back to me in some form that I can end up buying a piece of artwork which is worth more for its artistic merit than necessarily value. But yeah, we'll find a piece out there as well. I didn't advertise it, I didn't advertise it on Facebook like, oh, my work's in the charity shop, but I did like the idea that somebody might just find it because I like it and then take it home. So he's starting to build up that shadow in the shirt. I think it's too angular at the moment. I think it needs to come down, be more vertical, so I might move that around a little bit. I might need to change that highlighting as well. Let's try that. So using that rubber in a slightly different way. This is just normal plastic eraser. This was by Creative Colour. It's got rounded edges on it, so I'm just using the length of it to pull the shadow out a little bit. I can then go back in and resculpt that whole area. Like this whole area here as well. Blend it in. Excuse me. Put in little highlights of where other shadows are as well. Because this graphite is so lightly put on, I'm literally just dabbing it on the surface, not scrubbing it. Just dabbing it on the surface is enough to kind of lift off the graphite underneath. Okay. I think we're getting enough kind of spaces and shapes in there now. Again, they're just helping me find the form and go back in and refine the tone with other things. So this is darker. So when people do portraits of faces, you can suggest things that, like collars and shirts and other paraphernalia that you might find in a portrait, as long as they're in proportion with the physicality of the head and shoulders and stuff, they can look believable. It's when you start to draw things out of context, if they start to draw massive collars on a smaller shirt, because we've got involved in drawing a collar, we've not really understood the proportions of it. If I drew these collars too big and the necktie line too big, I might have got the shoulders right, but all these things need to work in harmony with each other. You can accentuate certain stuff. People have stylized heads, like Modigliani would have very long features, very long tall heads, but all of his features and figures had this elongation to them that was identifiable as his thing that he was interested in visually. It's not to say that if he had lived he wouldn't have changed it in some format or put other elements into it, because I think artists are constantly evolving what they're doing because they evolve how they think about things. But if you're doing something out of context and you're not aware of it, it looks odd and it stands out and other people can see it. If you're doing it for a reason, there's a conceptual reason behind it, then you can stand behind it and you're doing it with a certain amount of confidence, and that is actually transferred through. People can actually start to see, no, there's so much quality in the work that is identifiable as done on purpose. There's a reason for that, and it's almost an unsaid thing that it's not verbal, it's kind of visceral, that you can physically see it in a work, that when you're looking at it, it looks right. So if you're accentuating something for a reason, do it for a reason. If you do a drawing and things are too big or too small, don't bluff, because it's easily noted where if people go, yeah, well, so after the fact of doing the drawing, somebody goes, are those glasses too, are they oversized glasses on the head? Oh yeah, they are, and it's like the one-off thing that you've done. It's like, why? You know, it's so easily found out. Spoofing is so easily found out that it's not worth it. It's easy to go, okay, I made an error on that drawing. That drawing wasn't fully resolved because I didn't observe that bit. My next drawing will be. If you ignore it, you'll repeat the same mistake. If you identify it, you'll be aware of it, so you don't make the same mistake. You see what I mean? So yeah. I think there's just a slight darker shadow just about there, and it's just a subtle shadow, but there's enough just to give you a hint of where the edge of that cheek and chin is. Just put in a bit of a line there to redefine that line as well. I think because I'm making that line look a bit too thick, it looks like too much of a shadow on the side of the face. I'm going to dab that and take it back. Just thinning it out a little bit. I'm going to redefine this darkness of the shadow of his nostril as well. Just so I can get the scale right. Little tiny shadow shapes can be important as well. if that was that. So I'm not getting sucked into too much detail, but you can see that nostril isn't necessarily a big curve, because I can't see a big curve. What I can actually see is a bit of a line, and that's all. And it's got a slight shadow just underneath it, maybe just here, but not much. And I'm literally just tapping the pencil on the paper. I wasn't kind of scribbling into it. It's so light that if it's not right, I can go back in with that mono eraser and just take it off a little bit. But I'm starting to see where a shadow line comes down here. I had it up a little bit higher than that before, I think. Yeah, just adjust that a little bit too wide. Back a bit. So even with that line there, just making him for sort of that cheek line. I didn't get it in. It was too high up before, and I made it too thick and fluffy just then. So I was having to go back in and refine it. You will make adjustments on your drawing. I don't want to say errors, because you've got to kind of put the mark down to see where it is to change it. And to expect yourself to make the right mark in the right place all of the time is way too much expectation, because I don't know of any artists out there that just go, oh, it goes here, here, and here, there's the face. There aren't. There's a lot of people who they make less adjustments as they go on in their art career, because they are more professionally be doing it longer. There are eyes tuned to their hand, but you'll still see them make adjustments. They make less of them, but they still make adjustments. So you are allowed to make adjustments in your picture. So that's the whole reason about doing this kind of application of graphite, building it up slowly, is okay. There's a little bit of where the nose grip of the glasses is just about there, and the glasses create a nice kind of shadow shape. And it comes back out now. There's a little bit of the glasses there, then it disappears, and then it comes up here. A little bit there. This is more of a line of the reflection of the glasses, but where this part of the frame is, where the arm comes in, there's a little dark dot just there. I'm just to give myself locations of where to put things, so I'm looking at it in context with the other side here now, whereas I know that this is where this bit is here. That might not make any sense. Basically, it's the front part of this frames the glasses that I'm looking at. I'm just getting the shapes right, because there's a shadow shape just here above it, which gives me the side of the head, which helps then frame the shape and hair of where the hair comes out here, and then there's a turning of the hair line just about here, which helps you then find there's a bit of a shadow shape, which is quite thin on this part, which is the back side of the jaw, which thins out the face a little bit and elongates it. I think, yeah. Just changing the angle of that jawline a little bit. all that came from trying to understand where this highlight was, because there's one over on this side as well, and those two relationships in this shadow line and this shadow line made me look at the length of this face, which needs to be just a little bit longer. Some might say, Lee, you should have seen that from straight away, and therefore if you didn't see it straight away you're no good. And I would say rubbish. You're allowed to let a drawing develop. If things aren't in the right place, you might not be aware of them straight away, but I now know that this is a better fit for the shape of the face than it was. And it's only dropped it down, I'd say, about 2mm. Not much. But those 2mm can help accentuate certain features, and there's a nice element to your jaw, Alex, that I like. And by shortening it wouldn't give it as much character. You go back in and refine some of those features as well. So taking graphite off and putting it back on again, it's like I'm not rubbing back to the paper itself. I'm just kind of lifting little bits of graphite off the surface really, really lightly. Putty rubbers are really great for this as well, because you can basically dab or roll them onto the surface and it lifts off a layer of graphite, leaves the graphite on the paper that if you then want to scrub through that, you can get back to the whiteness of the page. And there's nothing as white as the page on your drawing other than the highlights on your glasses. So I know this area will be toned in. We can put the framing in a little bit here. We might put some of the texture of this picture behind. Interesting picture. It's got like the crown bar, but it looks like it's almost done like sort of computer. Well, it's really interesting. It's got a lovely kind of Bruegel feel to it, if you know what I mean. Of the sort of the characters of the people are as important as the buildings themselves. It's like the little kind of stories of the couples. I was just looking at the picture in the background. You got, so yeah, it's an interesting work. Who's that by? I'm just doing the camera, by the way. We're back in 1 second. Oh, come on, camera. You can do it. There we go. Yeah. So yeah, we are getting there with this drawing. I'm kind of pleased not to rush it. I know it might be a bit more frustrating for you guys, but I don't like necessarily just rushing drawings for the sake of them. It's nice to spend the time with it and develop it a little bit, because I want to get the quality of this thing right. I'm not too bothered about, you know, just rattling through this, doing a portrait a week. I want to get this artwork right. Again, if you are interested in being part of this artwork, these are a patchwork of faces, basically people like you, and including you, Alex, of people who have been along this kind of experience of doing live art online. So if you want to get involved, you can send me a personal picture that you're happy with, that I'll include in this artwork. It'll be like a patchwork element to it. So you can message me that on my Facebook page, Lee Boyd Artist. Get a selfie picture that you're happy with, or get somebody to take a photograph of. Make sure you're happy with it first. Send me that picture, and if you can use it, it'll go into the artwork. So there'll be I think we've got a couple more to do. Desiree, you're one. And there was somebody's name, forgive me, who sent me a picture as well. I'll try and endeavour to find out anything, because where are we? I'll find out and tell you, because I have it in my files. Pictures, where are we? There we are. The reason why I'm going to if only I was good at computers, that would be awesome, wouldn't it? Sorry. Leslie, thank you. Yeah, so they've got those 4 portraits. I've got, this is the second one in. It's important, I think, not to kind of rush it just so I'm doing one a week. I think it's important to get the quality of them right first, because at the end of the day this will be an artwork that will last past this time, and I want it to be an important aspect of it. So if you are interested still, give us a shout. Let me know. What time are we now? It's about really 1:30. I'm going to leave it there for this week. I'm not going to do any more to your portrait. I'll carry on with this next week. I think we're getting closer to the finish with it, especially with regarding the face and features. It may be that elements of the frame and picture and etc. I might simplify down, but there's a structural element that I'm quite happy with the face. I might do a slight flattening of the chin, shadow bit here, because I think where this shadow comes out, I'm just going to dab that, take off the illusion. There's a couple of little darker dots of graphite which makes you look like you've got Kirk Douglas chin. Yours is much squarer than that, which you want to put in. I'm just dabbing it. I'm using it with the drawing glove rather than my finger. I do it with a bit of cotton pad as well. And just kind of like soften that a little bit, just to give you the right structure. You are looking at this from a slight angle, so there's a slight skewing of the image. And when I do touch the thing, it's really lightly. It might look like I'm really sort of scrubbing the surface. I'm not. I'm literally just dabbing it. So any difference is superficial. That I can go back in and readjust it again. Everything is a light build on that. So yeah, we'll leave it there for this week. Really pleasure and enjoyed it again. Thank you for being here. Really do enjoy my Saturday mornings. Sophie is obviously enjoying it because she's asleep. I just don't hope I have the same effect on people watching it when they just go, Lee's on, start snoring. Yeah, so thanks very much for watching. This will be available on YouTube, so if you haven't caught up with it or you've missed parts of it, don't worry, it will be there for you to review at some stage. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you again next week, same time, and spread the word around, let people know. Type more. The more you type, the more fun it is for everybody as well.